You've probably seen the headline saying that home sales are ticking up. Sounds pretty encouraging, right? But here in York County, the story is completely different. In July, sales actually dropped 11%, while inventory ticked up 13%. And here's the kicker. The official reports don't tell you what I'm seeing out and about in neighborhoods every single day. Homes are sitting longer. Price reductions are stacking up. Now, the so-called 7 days on market statistic is only talking about homes that have actually sold, not the ones that are still sitting on the market waiting for a buyer. That's what I want to dive into today. The real story behind the numbers and what it means for you if you're thinking about buying or selling in York County this fall. Here's what the National Association of Realtors is saying. Sales rose 2% across the country in the month of July. Inventory is the highest it's been in 5 years. Homes are taking a little longer to sell nationwide, around 28 days. But the York County reality is a little bit different because remember, all real estate is local. We had 479 homes close in July of 2025, but we had 540 close in July of 2024. So that number is drastically down, 11%. It's not a small number. Prices are technically higher, sitting right below 300,000, which means it's gone up by about 3% this year. And the official report says the median days on market was 7 days. Sounds like a really solid market, doesn't it? But let's be honest, that's not what it feels like when we're out and about looking at homes right now. In fact, during July, while I was out working with buyers, we started to see more and more homes sitting longer days on market and price reductions, which allowed us to go and visit homes that might not have been in their price range before. So here's what I think is happening. I think that a lot of people get tripped up by the data. Reports are always lagging, and that's a key factor. They only are going to measure the homes that actually sold in that time period. So yes, the homes that sold in July, well, they sold fast, about a week on average. But what those stats don't show you are the homes that are still sitting on the market. And that's what I'm noticing in real time. We've got more homes needing price reductions. We need more showings before an offer is coming in. And buyers are being a whole lot pickier than they were a couple of months ago. So when someone tells me everything's still selling in under a week, well, I have to laugh a little because sure, that's somewhat true, but again, it's only part of the information. And the homes that did sell in under a week, well, they're priced properly and they showed beautifully. But the rest of the market, the homes where sellers overshot on price, or the ones that are outdated and not looking the best, well, those are the ones that are still sitting on the market. And because they're still sitting on the market, those prices are being cut and sellers are starting to feel that shift. In fact, I was just hosting an open house this past weekend for a home that's been on the market for over 30 days and has already gone through 2 price reductions. Now, if you're a buyer, this is good news. We had 861 active listings in July, which is honestly the most options we've had in a little while. And that's a big change from just a couple of years ago, when you might have only had a handful of homes in your price range to choose from. So, what does this mean for you? Well, first, it means that you've got breathing room. You don't have to write an offer the same night that you tour, as we've been having to do recently. You've got a little bit of leverage. You can ask for repairs. You can ask for down payment or closing cost assistance. You can even write an offer below asking. If there's a home that's just outside your price range, but you don't want to offend the sellers with an under market offer, you can always wait a week or so, and then when they cut the price, you'll be able to swoop in. This also allows you to be a little bit choosier when picking a home. Listen, it's a nice change from the pandemic frenzy when people were waiving inspections just to get in the door and see a home. All this being said, the very best homes, the ones that are priced right and move-in ready, those are still going to be highly competitive in this market. And those homes are still moving fast. So it's not about dragging your feet per se, but it's about being able to breathe and negotiate the deal. In fact, a home that I closed on not long ago, we actually offered below asking price on the home, and we still won the deal. On the other side though, if you're a seller, you need to pay attention. Buyers have options now. The market is starting to shift from a seller's market to a balanced market, meaning buyers are going to have a lot more power and a lot more leverage With buyers having options, that means if you come out of the gate with too high of a price, your home is going to sit. You're not the only option in town anymore, and instead of getting 10 offers, you might be getting silence instead. Here's the truth. Homes that are priced well are selling in under a week. The ones that are overshooting their price range, well, they're sitting and taking price reductions, essentially ending with the seller netting less money than they intended to. In fact, had they priced properly, they might have even had competitive offers and ended up with above their asking price. In a highly competitive real estate market, pricing low can create a lot of interest and create competing offers where each ends up outbidding one another. So the sellers may have ended up with much more than what they had actually listed it for had they listed it for a little bit less. So the days of testing the market with a number, those are over. Today, it's all about strategy, presentation, and being realistic. That's how you stay out of the price reduced club. In fact, we just had a situation similar to this in-house. We actually had a listing that the agent had recommended a certain price point, and the sellers wanted to list it for higher. After going under contract and being out of contract, being back on the market, the sellers ended up having to take a price reduction down to where the listing agent had originally recommended it. And it generated enough interest that they actually ended up netting more than what they had originally listed it for. So keep this in mind when talking with your agent and setting the price on your home. So while the national story is all about how sales are ticking back up, in York County, we're seeing a more nuanced picture. Sales are slower, inventory is up, and price reductions are rising. If you're thinking about buying this fall, that's great. You've got more choices and more room to negotiate. If you're thinking about selling, it's still a great time, but it's not going to be about chasing yesterday's prices. You need to be realistic about what's happening in the market now. You need to make sure that you're positioning your home correctly for today's buyers. That's why I always say, don't just rely on canned reports. Talk to someone who's walking through homes day in and day out. Because agents active in the marketplace can actually give you the real story about what's going on behind the scenes. If you want to talk about what this means for your specific neighborhood or your situation, feel free to call or text me. You can also check me out at livinginyork.com. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you guys in the next one.